Tonight on New Tech Nightly, ByteDance, the creator of TikTok, is challenging Google's AI image generation crown. Meanwhile, Adobe is embracing competitors' image models in Photoshop, and Anthropic is quietly supercharging Claude while an IPO fever grips crypto and fintech. All that and more on today's New Tech Nightly, recorded taped live from the Big Pink in beautiful downtown Portland, Oregon. I'm Shannon Leonard, your temporary host as we develop this show, but let's get into the tech stories. So ByteDance has a new image model called SeeDream 4, and it's challenging Google's much-hyped Nano banana image model that was released just a few weeks ago. So SeeDream 4 is a multimodal image generator and editor similar to Nano banana. The reason Nano banana went viral was because it was so easy to edit images using natural language, and that's very similar to what SeeDream 4 can do. The big question, is SeeDream 4 actually better than Nano banana? Well, it's reportedly beating it in prompt adherence, alignment, and aesthetics, but that's from ByteDance's own tests. A lot of these benchmarks and evals can be flawed, and at the end of the day, these models can really be subjective in terms of choosing which one is better. I've seen some side-by-sides that show that Nano banana is actually better than SeeDream 4 in some cases. But look, the bottom line is that Nano banana is a lot faster than SeeDream 4, especially for developers using these tools. You want an image generation model that can quickly get you a result, and right now SeeDream 4 just takes time. It's like several minutes versus less than a minute. And look, there's new models coming out all the time, so there's never really a model that's the best model forever. It's constantly changing. But speaking of Google's Nano banana image model, where Adobe is embracing that model and actually going to integrate it into Photoshop. And it's a surprising turn because Adobe has their own in-house image generation models that are trained off of licensed data to make them commercial safe. But with Adobe confirming that Nano banana will be offered as a native image model inside Photoshop later this month, this really shows that they're going to put the onus on the user in terms of what type of models they want to use, and they're not going to restrict Photoshop to just using their own in-house models. You know, honestly, I think this is a good approach because Adobe's Firefly licensed image models, they just aren't as good as a lot of the other image models that are out there. And of course, as people are learning more about how these models actually work and the discourse around training actually being fair use, which is also working its way through the courts. Nothing definitive yet, but that conversation is happening where there's more of a gray area. People are willing to leverage all different types of models as long as they personally feel that they're doing it in a way that is ethical, or maybe not. I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but I know a lot of professionals use Adobe software and they work with clients that have questions about copyright, etc. But as I said, as the understanding of how these models work, where these image models, diffusion models, they don't actually store the training data in the model. They're just looking at that training data, finding patterns, learning things, and then, and then the goal of these models is to leverage all of those patterns, just sort of like a human brain, and create something that's new. Of course, there is regurgitation, or you can do jailbreaking or prompting to try to, get some kind of copyrighted material out of these models, but that's not what they're designed to do. And obviously the frontier labs are actively trying to prevent regurgitation as much as possible. So I think Adobe's stance of having their own in-house models that are trained with licensed data while also integrating third-party models is a smart move. Creatives can decide which models to use and make those decisions on their own. Moving on, Claude from Anthropic has some pretty big updates, and they're not really advertising it. Look, if you follow them on x.com, you'll see some tweets announcing these features, but they're not having huge launch videos or making a splash about these. And these are actually some pretty big upgrades to Claude, which if you haven't used Claude, it's a ChatGPT competitor, but they do things differently. It's different models, the way the models act, the personality, but also the way that they're designed, different from OpenAI's models, and also different feature sets. But now, as of a few days ago, Claude has the ability to produce Excel spreadsheets or PowerPoint decks. And it's doing this by running its own private computer environment, similar to ChatGPT's agent feature. So now you can ask Claude to do things like make a budget with scenario tabs, or turn this PDF into slides. And then just today, minutes before recording this, Anthropic announced that they're rolling out team and enterprise memory with project scope summaries and an incognito chat mode. Now, they rolled out memory for other users, I think a few weeks ago, but that memory feature is really big, and having that for team and enterprise users will make Claude a much more useful work tool. And I have to mention, they've been on a roll the past few weeks, and Anthropic, Sonnet 4 just jumped to 1 million token context window. Context window is like a model's short-term memory, so that the longer the context window, the more you can put into that memory. They've also really worked on their voice mode, which is getting good, and even rolled out some learning modes recently for educational purposes. So Anthropic is building over there. Obviously, OpenAI is building a lot and pushing forward, but there's just a lot of progress right now, and a lot of new capabilities are being rolled out to more people. All right, in tech stock market news, there is an IPO frenzy going on. Obviously, there was Figma, Klarna, and now the crypto exchange Gemini apparently is 20x oversubscribed for their upcoming IPO. And this really signals a renewed appetite for crypto-related stocks, and it's a big reputational win for Gemini after past regulatory scuffles. And the question is, if this IPO is successful, like it looks like it's going to be, will this kind of open up the floodgates for rivals like Kraken or blockchain.com to go public as well? I guess we'll find out. Meanwhile, another crypto-related IPO, Figure Technologies, soared 44% in its debut on the NASDAQ. So yeah, it's a little bit of an IPO frenzy right now. Next story for all the media creators out there, YouTube is rolling out multi-language audio support. You might have heard about YouTube's dubbing tool, but they're expanding this tool to all creators on the platform, and this allows videos to carry multiple audio tracks in different languages. This feature has already started rolling out for select creators, the biggest ones like MrBeast, and they've already seen boosted view counts from global reach using this feature. And it's been 2 years of testing this, but now YouTube says the rollout will complete for everyone in the coming weeks. And also this comes alongside an experimental multi-language thumbnail feature to localize video titles and thumbnails in feeds. And just a little context on how this works, Google is using AI for the dubbing. And this all happens automatically, where if the creator opts in, it can clone your voice and then have that translated into any other language and have natural sounding speech that also tries to match the original speaker's emotion and cadence. So it's pretty cool. One more stat on this multi-language support. YouTube says testers saw 25% plus watch time increase coming from non-primary language views on the dubbed videos. So this is working. That's all for this edition, but if you want to host New Tech Nightly and you live in Portland, Oregon, please reach out at hello@resonant.works. I'm Shannon, your temporary host as we develop this show, and I'll see you tomorrow.